And you and I are going to talk about charter schools, parochial schools, and the organization of high school sports in a second. But first, I mentioned this to Victoria. When we had Joel on a couple of weeks ago, talk a little bit about football, and I forgot what we were talking about with Joel. But he was
football
playoffs, whatever.
Yeah.
And he was here, and I got messages from people who said Gold doesn't know anything, and they're right. I don't know anything.
You know much more about 1A boys soccer.
I could teach a class. I don't know anything about high school football in the state, which is why I only talk about issues with you. Occasionally we do playoff stuff.
Yeah.
We talked about stuff that was going on in the mountains, all that. So yeah, I ain't arguing with you. I don't know anything about. I don't know who the good teams are. I don't know who the coaches are. I don't know who what the conferences are. I make no bones about that. So I saw the story, and I'm probably have this wrong too, where charters and parochial schools might be grouped together going forward. There's going to be a discussion about this tomorrow, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
So walk me through this.
So the NCHSA has two board meetings every year that are regular board meetings, and they do some stuff in between. Okay. But this is one of them. It happens every winter right around this time. And schools and conferences and school districts can put forward agenda items for the board to discuss. And that is what has happened with this particular topic is Nash Central High School, which is in Nash County. They have put forward a proposal that it really proposes a couple things, and I'm interested to see how the NCHSA addresses it. One, it suggests that in the next realignment, which goes into place next school year, there'll be 8 classifications instead of 4. And they are suggesting that 6 of those 8 classifications be reserved for schools who only have students based on a traditional attendance zone. So like you're districted to this school, that's where you go.
Okay.
So the proposal
normal public schools for the most part.
Right. Yeah. The traditional, like you grew up going to a traditional public school, right? So the proposal itself actually doesn't say the word charter or parochial, that I don't believe, but that's what the effect would be. Is it would put the charter and parochial schools in their own playoffs. It would not remove them from the NCHSAA. They'd still be in the same conferences with all the teams that they're in with now. So like none of that would change. It would just be the playoffs. So that is the proposal. And then the other part of the proposal is they want the NCHSAA to send a survey out to all the member schools and ask their opinion on this, which wouldn't surprise me if that happens. They do that with all kinds of topics all the time. So the board has multiple options. They can take this up. They are going to take this up. They have to, because the protocols were followed to get this on the agenda. Okay. So they have to take this up. It's going to be sometime around 1:00 on Wednesday afternoon. We'll have that streaming on High School OT. And they could vote on the proposal, which I think is probably unlikely. Okay. They will discuss it for sure. They could table it and say, hey, we're going to come back to it at the spring meeting or at a later date. The board could tell the NCHSA staff members, we want you to do this survey of the membership and get their feedback. There's a lot of things that the NCHSA could do in terms of acting on this or not tomorrow. I think it is highly unlikely this becomes some sort of policy tomorrow.
All right, so let me because my son goes to Wake Prep, which is in Franklin County, just over the Franklin-Wake County border. And
I just want to stop. Wake Prep in Franklin County, Franklin Academy in Wake County. It's
odd.
Yeah.
Very odd. Yes, all of it. So, and his school is a 1A. He's in they're a 1A, and I don't know how it's going to look next year. The conference that they play in is 1A and 2A schools. Yep. But he's a 1A school. Now, is there a chance that, because it's parochial, that he could be in the same conference as Cardinal Gibbons?
So that's like the thing here is
it just seems crazy, but you're saying there's 2 of these levels.
That's what the proposal suggests. It's hard. There's a lot of challenges with this. That's one of them. Is there are some charter schools who have like 60 or 80 kids in them.
Right.
Then you have Cardinal Gibbons, which is one of 4 parochial schools in the NCHSAA that has like 1,600 or 1,800 kids in it.
Right.
I can't remember how many, but they're going to be 6A next year in the current classification or in the future classification. Many of the charter schools are going to be 1A or 2A.
Sure.
Most of them. So, there's a problem there in terms of the playing field for those schools. But, before you even get to like how it would work and everything, this is my interpretation. I've not talked to anybody at the NCHSAA who has told me this on or off the record. I imagine we'll hear about this conversation tomorrow. But I think this proposal actually violates the NCHSAA bylaws.
Oh, okay.
Because the member schools voted last year, overwhelmingly voted to support a bylaw amendment that is the reason we're going to A classifications. And it says that you can have no more than 64 schools in a classification, and that those classifications can be determined based solely on their average daily membership numbers, which is a form of enrollment. Well, saying this school doesn't have an attendance zone, or this school's a charter school, or this school's a parochial school, has nothing to do with your average daily membership number.
None.
So as long as that is in the bylaws, I don't know how you get around that.
Gotcha.
So, maybe the NCHSAA will have a lawyer there tomorrow at their board meeting. Maybe they have a way around that. I'm certainly not a lawyer, but to me, that's pretty cut and dry.
Do we know, Nick Stevens, managing editor of High School OT, is joining us here in the Adam Gold Show. Do we know why Nash Central is pushing for this?
Nash Central is who
like what I'm trying to get at is this a solution in search of a problem?
I don't think it's a solution in search of a problem. I think most people in the NCHSAA, probably most of the people at the charter and parochial schools, will admit that there are some inherent advantages
to being a charter,
not having a traditional boundary of attendance, because kids can come from various places and whatnot. I think people will agree on that. I think where you get the disagreement is, what are those advantages and how do you fix them? A lot of times you have schools who will accuse charter schools and parochial schools of recruiting. Well, they're not allowed to recruit, just like any other school in the NCHSAA is not allowed to recruit.
It's never happened anywhere.
If that's happening,
Gibbons never recruited.
If that's happening,
I'm just kidding.
Turn them in.
Right.
Provide some evidence, turn them in. That is like the biggest rule you cannot break in high school sports. So that. I think that the advantages that charter schools have, especially, and some of these parochial schools, especially the lower classifications, many of those charter schools that are competing in the 1A and 2A level are coming from large metro areas like here in the Triangle or in Charlotte or in the Triad, where you have more people to pull from. You also have more resources than you have in these small towns. And, down in eastern North Carolina, where you might have a 1A school, they're not playing soccer year round. They're not playing volleyball year round. They're playing 3 and 4 different sports.
Right.
They don't have the trainers and all the stuff that everybody, like here in Wake County, if you're a soccer player, you're playing soccer all the time and you're doing workouts on the side, and you have all this stuff available to you. And I think that is more of the advantage that a lot of those schools have. And that is something that the current realignment tried to address. It took into account the average daily membership numbers. It also took into account the overall athletic success of a school. And it also took into account what's called an ISP number, which represents the population of a school that gets like government assistance. So it's basically the economics of the community that is in there.
Sure. Maybe we need promotion and relegation.
Well, so that is how the current realignment was done. People didn't like that. They want to do just ADM. So, I think that the current realignment has actually done a really good job. Here in the fall, if you look at soccer and volleyball, we had one parochial school win a state championship. We had no charter schools. So, I think that that's something that is worth looking at. And I also think it's important, just because a charter school or parochial school wins a state championship doesn't mean something's wrong.
Right. Doesn't mean anybody cheated.
There's like 60 charter schools in the NCHSAA right now. They're going to win. There's going to be some state championships that are won by charter schools.
We tried. We got to the quarters.
Right. So, I think I don't think it's a solution looking for a problem. I think that there is a legitimate concern that a lot of schools have, especially at the lower classifications in the NCHSAA. I think it's once you get past that point, how do you address it? And that's where people don't agree.
All right, before we you don't think this is going to pass?
I don't think it's going to pass this week. I think the discussion's going to be really interesting.
Okay.
I think it'll probably get tabled and they'll revisit it if they don't say this violates our bylaws and we can't do it. You'll
have that discussion on highschoolot.com.
We will. It should be about 1:00 on Wednesday afternoon.
All right, let me ask you before I have to say goodbye to Nick Stevens, managing editor, High School OT. We're in the football playoffs. It's like the 13th round or whatever we're in. There's 1,000 teams.
Fourth round.
Are we going to have 64 teams in 8 different classifications in the playoffs next year?
We don't know that. That'll be something we expect to learn this week.
Well, I guess that
we don't know how the playoffs.
Do we have we have 32 on each side now, right?
We have 64 and 4 right now.
Yeah, 64 and 8 would be a lot.
It would be.
Yeah, but I don't even know if there's going to be 64 teams at the 8A level, right?
8A will be what they're calling the Big 32, so it'll be the largest 32 schools in the state.
And all of them will make the playoffs.
We don't know.
Yeah, they'll all make the playoffs. So, who's left? Let's start at the 4A level real quick. Who's left?
It's mostly the top seeds in the 4A level. In the 4A East, you got the 1 seed Cleveland. They've had some close calls in the playoffs.
Jameis Winston just threw 2 pick sixes. Sorry.
The Cleveland Rams in Johnston County, they almost became the first number 1 seed in any sport to lose to a 32 seed in the first round of the playoffs.
Really?
But they have responded well. They're in the
UMBC.
4th round now, and they will be hosting Rollsville this week.
Oh.
And Rollsville is loaded, so that's going to be a really interesting game. You also have Cardinal Gibbons, speaking of the parochial schools, hosting Hoggard, who won the 4A East last year. So that'll be
from Wilmington.
That'll be good. Yeah, Grimsley and Huff play each other on the west side. That's been like a little playoff rivalry game in recent years, and you also have East Forsyth on the road at Weddington. Thomas Davis Jr. And team down there.
Going to Notre Dame, isn't he?
He is, and they are the defending state champions. So the 4A is, the top seeds. Looks like the playoffs were done well in the 4A.
Any surprises down? I'll just say down ballot. Any surprises down the other divisions?
The 30 seed J.H. Rose is in the 4th round out of Greenville. They beat Southern Durham last week 36-7. In the 3rd round of the playoffs. So that's I believe the first time we've had a 30 seed in the 4th round in any sport, I think. Definitely in football. But Rose will be at 71st this week, which that's going to be a different test. Different test for them without a doubt. So that's the lowest seed that's advanced, but I think we have, I can't remember if it's 8 or 10 double-digit seeds in the 4th round of the playoffs this year.
So we're in the quarterfinals now, so this weekend plus 2 more and we're done.
Yep. Regionals will be next week, and then state championships the following weekend at Carter Finley and Keenan Stadium. Or whatever Carter Finley's going to be.
2 games at Carter Finley. Oh, we getting a name on that?
I haven't heard. Have you?
No, I haven't.
I've heard they've put the rights out.
Good. Yeah. 2 games at Carter Finley, 2 games at Keenan?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. That's cool.
And this weekend on Saturday, we have the first ever flag football state championships at Durham County Stadium. It'll be 2 semifinals starting at 11 o'clock that morning. They'll have a 3rd place game, and then the championship game will be, I think, 2:30 on Saturday afternoon, and we'll have all of that live on High School OT as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Who's in it?
Well, we'll find out tomorrow.
Oh, we have
the next round is tomorrow. So.
All right, Nick Stevens, managing editor, High School OT. Nick Stevens, HSOT on Twitter. Got to get you on Blue Sky. I'm not selling Blue Sky, just that's where I try to operate some.
So I do have an account. I reserved my username, but I'm not using it yet. But people are welcome to follow me there.
I might just follow you and you provide no content to me right now, but that's all right. Nick Stevens.